Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at World War One, or as it was referred to back then, the Great War. It also went by another name, the War to End All Wars, which unfortunately it did not. If anything, it led to the Second World War that began in Europe in 1939. World War One began in Europe in 1914 and lasted until 1918. The United States did not enter the war until April 6th, 1917, and we'll look more at that tomorrow. But today we're going to be focusing mainly on what caused this great global event. Real fast, I just kind of want to look at the pictures on this first slide. And if you notice, especially in the picture on the left, we really have a picture that exemplifies how World War One not only continued to use some, I guess, technology or some fighting tactics that were more reminiscent of the 1800s and previous centuries as well, and that is soldiers on horseback, the cavalry. We see that definitely in World War One, horses played a tremendous role in World War One. Tens of thousands of them were killed, and but you can also see in this one picture that you have the mounted soldier who is not only using a method of warfare that was seen quite a bit in previous centuries and of course in our American Civil War, but is also using modern technology. The soldier has a gas mask on to protect himself from poisonous gas. He has much more advanced weaponry in terms of the guns that he is using, the grenades, which you cannot see very well in this picture, all sorts of things that that he's carrying on his horse, that kind of really symbolizes how World War One is kind of has one foot still in the previous century, in the 1800s, and is this first truly modern war, global war that we'll be seeing that ignites the entire world in this horrendous conflict. So the main causes of World War One that we're going to look at one by one, and which you will enter on your chart, can be categorized by this acronym, which is MAIN. So the M in MAIN stands for militarism, the A for alliance system, the I for imperialism, and the N for nationalism. And together they present the main causes of World War One in Europe. Looking at this picture, you can probably infer that, this looks to be a well-disciplined and trained army, one that is preparing for war. And indeed, militarism does mean just that. The aggressive preparation for war, really glorifying the military, not at all uncommon for countries that rely quite a bit on the military, for really as kind of an extension of their government and as their police force. And we'll have military parades showcasing their greatest military and weapons that they use. And that was certainly the case at that time, and continues even today in different parts of the world. A stands for alliances, which means the pacts of mutual defense between countries to bolster each nation's security. And as you can see in this chart, alliances between countries in Europe began as early as 1879, and in particular, smaller countries frequently are trying to will try to create alliances with much bigger countries for protection, especially if they can't defend themselves. And so they rely on larger countries, whether it's Russia, whether it's Great Britain, whether it's Germany, to help protect them. You also see countries that are surrounded by other countries that fear invasion, that fear attacks on their leaders from all sides, and so they make alliances with countries for protection. Because they know at any time their borders could be breached by invading armies. So imperialism is the next one. That stands for the economic or military expansion of territory. And really and truly, from the beginning of Christopher Columbus, searching for another route to the East Indies, and just kind of by accident discovers a whole new world, that in and of itself was an example of imperialism of of European nations, of, in this particular case, of Spain, trying to extend its empire around the world. And of course, with the founding of the 13 colonies, that's an example of imperialism by Great Britain trying to expand its economic and military territory into the New World. And by the 1900s, early 1900s, we see, for example, Great Britain, which is represented in black, that it has certainly extended its power, its economic and military power throughout the world in these black areas, as has France, which is the up and down stripes and the diagonal stripes that you can see over here, which represent, well, this is Russia. And so all over the world you see various empires that have expanded their power in other parts of the world. And then N stands for nationalism, which is a strong patriotic belief in one's country. So much so, really, that they will, fight if need be to defend their ideals and their loyalty to their nation. So self-determination, one thing that we need to kind of keep in mind is that some of these countries, some of these really tiny countries, and we'll look at a map in a moment, that have always sought protection from larger countries or were taken over by larger countries, and kind of became like a pawn between larger countries. And as a result, over time, smaller countries, especially in Eastern Europe, countries like Serbia, for example, that are really kind of tired of being pawns in this global game of monopoly that much larger countries are playing, such as Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary, and they're tired of it. They want to be their own country, and so they follow this self-determinism idea, much the same way that the 13 colonies did, where they were tired of being underfoot of a great empire like the British Empire and wanted to become their own country, have their own political allegiance without other larger countries interfering. And so we see that taking shape in Europe in the early 1900s. And so the spark that that ignites this global conflict begins in 1914 in this area of the world. Serbia is one of those small countries that really, they're tired of being a pawn of these larger countries. They really want to find their own, become their own country with their own political allegiances. And Germany and Austria-Hungary do not particularly care for that. What Serbia would like to do is to unite with Albania and Romania and Hungary and Bulgaria and join forces together, make their own country. And Germany and Austria-Hungary, who at that time previous to World War I control this area, don't like that, and they certainly aren't going to put up with it. So what happens is that the Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary decides that he is the monarch of Austria-Hungary. He decides he is going to take a trip to Serbia, kind of just see how the people of Serbia, over which his country presides, um, is just kind of take a tour, visit the heads of state in Serbia, and his trip to Serbia is well known. The parade route for his trip is well known. And what happens is that this independence group, this secret military organization called the Black Hand, is waiting for France, for Austria, Hungarian's leader, Franz Ferdinand, to visit their country so that they can try to assassinate him. And what they do is they have about 7 different members of the Black Hand military organization stationed along his parade route. And they start to lob, grenades at his car and at his bodyguard's car, and it doesn't do any real damage. Some of his bodyguards get hurt, but nobody is killed. And after about the 4th attempt on his life, the driver, who really gets kind of lost in Serbia, this is in Sarajevo, which is today Herzegovina, and the driver of Franz Ferdinand's car, in an attempt to get off the parade route and actually find his way to the local hospital where the bodyguards are have been hospitalized and are being treated for their injuries from previous assassination attempts, he gets lost and takes kind of a back route. He doesn't know the roads of the town that he's in, and as he comes to kind of a stop sign, he ends up out near a place where one of the assassins, Gavrilo Princip, is just happens to be standing. He actually just came out of a sandwich shop and had a sandwich, and he, lo and behold, the man that they've been trying to assassinate shows up near where he is at, and he sees another opportunity to assassinate Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. And all he does is walk straight up to his car. He's got his pistol, and he fires at Ferdinand and his wife, killing both of them. He's immediately apprehended, and lo and behold, before you know it, World War I has begun, and it begins because of the alliance system. Austria Crown Prince is killed in Serbia. Austria then threatens Serbia, and with retaliation, Russia, who is allied with Serbia to defend them, is not going to put up with any attack by Austria. Germany defends Austria because they are allies, and then France ends up defending Russia against Germany and Austria-Hungary, and before you know it, these allies are pulled into this conflict, this problem that originated in Eastern Europe in the Balkan region. And before you know it, they have formed teams, so to speak, or alliances against one another, and World War I has begun. So the two sides that take place, or the two sides of this war, include the Central Powers, and the Central Powers are made up of Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, Germany, and the Ottoman Empire. And I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to make a second recording to finish up this presentation.